10 before the hour. Back to Mark Canfield, who's in Seattle. Now, you wanted to mention about homelessness on the rise in Seattle. Really?
Not only on the rise, but there has been a civil emergency declared by Martin Luther King Jr. County and Seattle. In Martin Luther King County, there are over 10,000 people without permanent residence.
Wait a second. There's a county in Metro Seattle, Martin Luther King County?
Yes, it was originally called King County after Rufus King, who was...
Oh, right, okay. Right.
But it was changed within the last few years because nobody really wanted their county to be named after a slave owner. So it's Martin Luther King Jr. County now. And in that county, over 10,000 people are homeless in the last homeless count. So the mayor, city council, the King County commissioners got together, declared a civil emergency because that allows them to dip into emergency funding in order to try to provide more shelter. But part of the problem here is Seattle has the fastest increasing rents in the country. It's just outrageous. There are cranes on every street corner. Entire neighborhoods, including the one I live in, is just being demolished and rebuilt overnight.
So now it's Seattle's turn to feel the lash of the 1%.
We are, although at the same time there is a pushback because our socialist city council member Shama Sawant was reelected with a very large margin.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a pushback, and people are trying to find some way to deal with it in terms of rent control. But unfortunately, our Washington state legislature has banned rent control anywhere in the state. It's a statewide prohibition.
Oh my God!
Seattle is stuck.
So they ban it. They ban it by law, and I'm sure these are free marketeer types who then turn around and use the power of government to stop something like rent control.
Well, the lobbyists for the real estate developers who debated our local progressive council members Shama Sawant and Nick Licata, who unfortunately is retiring this year because he's been one of the most progressive activist city council members you could imagine. But when they had their debate with these lobbyists from the real estate developers, the real estate developers took the civil libertarian economic stance, which is when people pay $1,000 a month for a 200 square foot apartment in Seattle, that is a consumer choice, and you shouldn't take that away from them.
Yeah,
that is a consumer choice. People are so happy to be living in these small micro units, which actually the mayor and the city council put a moratorium on them because they were building so many that it was replacing like all the family homes and affordable housing in Seattle. Mm-hmm. So that's the other issue, lack of affordable housing. It just means that there are literally, and I'm writing about this right now in the Capitol Hill Times, there are people who are working. Some of them have 2 jobs. They're still living in a van because they can't afford the rent. Mm-hmm. There's an increase in families living in shelters. And so the mayor called a civil emergency. And meanwhile, if you want to add to some more crazy news from the Northwest, this supposedly progressive area, the Washington State Supreme Court currently holds the state legislature in contempt of court and is fining them $100,000 per day for their failure to adequately fund public education, which is, according to the Supreme Court and the state Supreme Court and also the Superintendent of Public Instruction, a direct violation of our state constitution.
Wow.
So we have an education crisis as well. The governor, Jay Inslee, and the state legislature just for some reason refused to call a special session. They just kind of passing it off and happening in Washington. Is
Inslee a Democrat?
He is a Democrat. The problem is that the Supreme Court has designated the fine, the $100,000 per day. That money has to be used to fund public education. So the legislature and the governor just consider it money in the bank. They just haven't figured out how to spend it. And the Republicans in the state Senate, who are the majority, block a lot of these new education proposals. You also have a statewide initiative that was passed by our neocon huckster paid initiative gatherer Tim Eyman, which forces the state to have a 3/4 or 75% vote on the increase of any new revenue in the state budget. Wow. So their hands are tied. Meanwhile, the schools are going bankrupt, and one man here in Seattle donated $70,000 of his own money to a local public school because they couldn't afford to keep a teacher here.
Well, if I'm hearing you right, Mark, then Inslee has no problem I'm not being snarky here. He has no problem with the $100,000 a day fine. It's one way to get money out of this legislature. Is that what you're saying?
Well, you're not being snarky. The Seattle Times editorial board, which is actually owned by a Republican, by the way, have been literally castigating the governor and the state legislature for refusing to move on this, saying that, you know, having all these meetings, talking about having other meetings is just ridiculous. So you're not the only one who is seeing this as sort of a betrayal of the public trust. I mean, the governor and the state legislators just refuse to face this issue, and they've done nothing to give people even an indication that they're going to solve this problem.
Mark, I got about 30 seconds left here if you want to wrap it up for me.
Well, I just wanted people to know that we also had an anti-fascist march in Seattle because of rumors of a neo-Nazi rally. So there you go. Things are changing really fast here, and there's a cultural conflict, cultural clash going on. So we'll see where it goes, because Seattle is typically very leftist and liberal and progressive. So we'll see what happens with all this new corporate money that's just enveloping the community. Yeah, we'll see.
All right, Mark, thank you. I appreciate your comments as always. Thanks for checking in.
Thanks, Mike. Keep up the good work. Keep it lit, everybody.
Okay. Take care, Mark. All right, that's it for us from here tonight. So we will see you tomorrow, same time, same station. Thanks for tuning in. We will keep you apprised of the upcoming change in this program. I'll see you tomorrow night. Take care. Keep it lit. I'm Mike Malloy.
News reports as a journalist. But first, I want to congratulate you on this great news about your new format.
Yeah, which was just stunning to me when, I forget the call letters. God, I made enough trips out there to participate in the forums that they used to hold. I forget the call letters at the station now, but
KPTK.
That's right. It was CBS owned KPTK, and it was a tremendous outlet for so many of us in so-called liberal talk. And I can remember going to those forums where there would be 6 or 7 or 8 of us on the stage, and you would have a pretty broad spectrum of so-called liberal points of view. You would have the corporate liberals would be there, the middle-of-the-road liberals would be there, the radical liberals, a couple of us would be there. But it was great. It was great fun, but also every time we did that, whatever amount of tickets they put out there were snatched up immediately. And it used to impress the hell out of me that people would spend $10, $12, whatever it was, to come in and hear 6 or 7 people sitting on the stage talking about these issues from the liberal left point of view. And the only problem I had with it at the time, and the reason I stopped doing it, was because I knew that my point of view was way too radical. I couldn't sit there with, even Thom Hartmann. As much as I like Thom as a person, but Rachel Maddow, who else, Kathy, were in that original group? What's his name? Schultz, Ed Schultz, Stephanie Miller, who? Yeah, Randy Rhodes was there. As much as I like some of those people and more than willing to listen to what they had to say, I just couldn't participate in it anymore, because they were all pretty much Clinton supporters. They were all pretty much corporate Democrats. They were all pretty much, and I'm not saying that, trying to set myself apart like, they're dummy and I'm so brilliant. No. It was just a different perspective on liberal issues, and I couldn't do it anymore. So I stopped going, and then the next thing I know, KPTK we were just told, hey, listen, CBS has said enough. We're switching over. I don't know what they switched to, sports or some crap, to keep people from thinking. So, yeah.
Well, what happened is KTPK turned into a sports station, so now Seattle has maybe 5 or 6. We didn't have enough.
Yeah, I got to have that.
Well, it's cheap programming, Mike. It's all automated. It's all coming from New York or Las Vegas. There's nobody here in the studio. It's just a couple engineers and, host or something. But cheap radio. Also, Portland had the same experience. Their
right.
station, AM station, went off the air. So the response has been that in Portland, they actually formed a group called X-Ray.FM, got a low-power radio license, and are now actually broadcasting out of a local and national progressive stuff in the Portland area.
Mm-hmm.
In Seattle, what happened is that group of people got together who supported KPTK, and they started Progressive Radio Northwest, which I've also been working with.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, my experience with them is that, myself and Norm Goldman and other folks came in and did some workshops for them, trying to convince everyone that the days of the AM radio are over and it's time to go online. Well, there's a whole generation of people who just refuse to accept that, and it's
mm-hmm.
very, very frustrating. So Progressive Radio Northwest is still there. They have a website, and they've made sure that there are at least links on that website to your show and Norm's show and a lot of other folks.
Hey, Mark, I see once again, I have to interrupt. Let me put you on hold, because I know you have more to say about this, but I've got to take another one of these breaks that are soon going to disappear. So stay there, Mark. We'll come right back.